Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's good to see all of you all. Welcome to Primetime at the BU Library. I'm so glad that everyone's here. Today's Talk About Teaching is co-sponsored by Faculty Development and the Friends of the Bethel University Library. Before we welcome Dan to the podium, we'd like to remind you that Primetime is an ongoing series for the Bethel community that highlights the academic work our community is doing, whether here or abroad. There's a great season ahead of us where we have the Edgren Scholars, faculty and student research teams, Faculty Excellence Award winners, student study abroad spotlights, as well as Not Ready for Primetime and Ready for Primetime faculty presentations. These are always the library partners with us to encourage lifelong learning beyond the classroom. Next week at this same time, we'll have Dan Yim, who will present on the moral significance of fashion. So I believe something all of us can relate to in some sort of, right, whether limited or significant. But today, we have Dr. Dan Rotach, who's an assistant professor of psychology and general studies who teaches in CAS, CAPS-GS, and the seminary. And today's presentation is Incarnational Teaching, the power of coming alongside in our teaching models. This presentation will process the power of coming alongside in our teaching models, the power of our stories, and the student stories. Can we welcome them? Thank you.
So I've been preaching over at the seminary for about 12 years now. And one of the things I always tell my intro students is preaching is the fine art of talking in somebody else's sleep. Because I said, if you think you can, for 50 minutes, hold somebody's attention just by parsing Greek verbs and stuff, not so much. It's largely story, it's image, it's video, it's all of that. Also teach Christians in Conflict here, and I teach human sexuality. My son Caleb, who's a graduate, chose not to take human sexuality from his father for reasons we haven't fully figured out. At age 55, which is the same age my father was when he passed away, I'm beginning to connect some conversations that I had years ago with a man, Gordon McDonald actually, who empowered me. He said, pay attention, the older you get, pay attention to those venues, those dynamics, those opportunities that give you life instead of take life away from you. I'm a marriage and family therapist, fairly good at it, but it doesn't give me life. Teaching gives me life. Dr. Deb and I have had a number of conversations about the fact that this is what I want to do when I grow up. And I began to think through my involvement here at Bethel University for the last 10, 11 years. And some stories came to mind that fit our conversation today, and it is a conversation, it's not a preaching gig. I'll start with the far end of the continuum. A couple of students in my classroom down through the years have chosen to come out. Okay? And I'm thinking through that because virtually my position is fairly conservative, but yet, and they know that, but yet feeling the freedom to say, Can we go over to Brush Arbor and talk a little bit? And I said, sure. So I've had a number of situations like that. 2 years ago, the phone rings at our. We don't have a landline at home, so my cell phone goes off because I put my cell phone number on the syllabus. Students can have it, clients can't, because if you've seen What About Bob, you know exactly what I'm doing. But here's the deal. Phone rings, it's Halloween. 4 of my human sexuality students call and say, we're trick-or-treating, can we come over? I said, I'm in Forest Lake, you're in Minneapolis. They said, we want to come over. I said, come on over. We'll start a bonfire. So we did. Sat around the fire for about an hour and a half. And one of the students says to me, "You know Jay, right?" I said, "Yeah." What if we went over there and trick-or-treated? I said, "I don't know, let me call him." So I called Jay. And Jay says, "Bring him over." And I'm thinking, you're like a big deal here, Jay. I mean, but later on, the students and I talked about that evening. They said, "We can't believe the president of the university let us come over and trick or treat." Now, you say that, well, what's the big deal? But here's what I'm starting to notice, folks, and I want to hear from the students here. You guys get to tell your stories, too. I got to thinking about a statement I heard Howie Hendricks make years ago. Let me just unpack John 1:14 first. Mostly because the slide didn't advance. But I love the way it's framed up in the message. Kind of a Jesus in the hood type of teaching. The Word became flesh and blood and got in there and mixed it up. I guess if he wanted to, he could have shouted down over the balcony of heaven and say, "You know, Rotach, I care for you." But no, he gets in there and he mixes it up. I love that teaching, incarnational teaching. And then I heard Howard Hendricks say this years ago, and it just so stuck with me. You can impress people from a distance, but you can only really impact them up close. Which I think is incarnational teaching, which being translated means, and here's where it starts to get maybe practical and relevant for you. I can stand for 50, 55 minutes and teach a lesson, but I'm beginning to wonder why, for instance, did one of the football player students come up to me the other day and said, "I saw you at the game." I said, "There's like 600 people there. I saw you." And I tried to talk myself. I said, "Well, I like football." He says, "No, I saw you." Which, for some reason, that was huge to him. Do you remember what we talked about today? No. I don't. But I do remember seeing you at the game. There's reasons why, for instance, as I talk with my daughter, Carice, about her journey here at Bethel University, that she goes back to a conversation in Venice with Tom at a restaurant. I said, "What is that about?" I think maybe there's something to this, stepping outside of our desks, up from around our desks. There's reasons why Caleb frequently says, "Jay and Barb are at the show." Caleb's a theater major. Jay and Barb are at the show. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? It's interesting that you can dispense information and you can get out there and you can have the lesson plan that's as tight as can be, but for whatever reason, this stuff lands better when the students know you're involved in their lives. Just yesterday, folks, a student who graduated from this institution 8 years ago told me about Mike Holmes being at her wedding. And she's wrestling through a theological issue right now. Her and Mike still meet for coffee, just to figure out this theological issue. The dude with the glasses? Yeah, Mike. I said, how sweet is that? Is that he not only gets to teach you, or taught you for 4 years, $130,000 later, but he's now buying you coffee, and you're continuing the conversation. Is that making sense so far? I'm rather passionate about you and I as instructors and educators getting in there and mix it up. Now, I'm not asking you to be Facebook friends with your students. I don't. I wouldn't dare. But there's something to be said for, can we step outside of a little comfort zone and get incarnation? One of my students said, I saw you and your wife at festival. I said, there was like a ton of people there. No, you were sitting up in the balcony. Go figure. So I'm putting all this together and thinking, maybe there's something to be said for incarnational teaching. I want to show you a clip. Let me set the stage for you. Anybody know who Maurice Cheeks is? You do, because you've seen the clip. Maurice Cheeks. Yeah, good call. Really, really good athlete. Not so much coach. I think he's an assistant now, Tom, somewhere.
I think he got fired, actually.
Did you get fired? Okay. All right. Okay. So he had a phenomenal career as a player, basketball player. Mediocre career as a coach. Enter Natalie Gilbert, age 13, who wins this Toyota Get the Feeling star promotion, and she gets to sing the national anthem at the playoffs. Dallas Mavericks and Portland Trail Blazers. I don't want to say 7-8 years ago. You guys have seen this, but watch what happens, because I want to just tease this out just a little bit. What am I missing here? Oh, there it is. Ready?
And now to honor America and salute the men and women serving our country with our national anthem, please welcome, as voted by you, the fans, our winner of the Toyota Get the Feeling of a Star promotion, Natalie Gilbert.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the starlight
Starts to cry.
stars like flags gleaming, whose first stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rattling and CNN gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
So I'm reading this article, and I think it's si.com. I think the title of the article is 2.08. And that clip runs a little longer, but the time it took for Maurice Cheeks to shoulder up with Natalie Gilbert and help her finish the national anthem was 2 minutes and 8 seconds. That's his defining moment. Now, what the article is saying is, Maurice Cheeks will always be known now. Oh, he's the guy that helped that little girl finish. That's his. Okay. I don't know how much you know about professional sport. Athletes do not sing. They don't, okay? Coaches don't. They usually just kind of dink around and do other stuff until the national anthem's over. Do you see what happened? Something really powerful is going on there. And Maurice Cheeks didn't get the words right either, by the way. Did you pick that up? He biffed on the words. And he's about an octave off. Who cares? He sees this 13-year-old girl out there standing all by herself. She starts to cry. The fans are getting a little bit weird about that. Mm-hmm. He says, I'm going to take a risk here. I'm going to come alongside her and help her finish. Defining moment. So, probably a little risky to say, I don't think it's going to be the content that our students will. I hope content sticks. I mean, I hope that gets some traction. But it's probably going to be those come alongside moments. I saw you at festival moments that are going to make a difference. And so, Peter Scazzero, if you do a Google search on incarnational teaching, it'll bring you out to 0 hits. But if you do a Google search on incarnational leadership, you're going to find all kinds of stuff. Taking that fundamental teaching of Jesus getting in there and mixing it up with the rest of us and bringing that over into leadership. So I began to wonder if maybe there's something to be said, as Peter Scazzero says in Emotionally Healthy Church, that make incarnation your model for loving well. Now he's empowering church leaders. What one writer calls this the ministry of proximity. I love that. Jay and Barb, I saw you at the theater. It's a ministry of proximity. So, I'll stop right here just for a second. Maybe students, if you want to tell a story, or any of you others, do you have a defining moment? Do you have a moment where this stuff so far has made sense? You know, you're not necessarily raising your own flag and saying, "Wow, look at how good of an instructor I am." But tell your story. Does anybody have a story where a student leaned in you and said, "Thanks for showing up"? Anything like it? Students or faculty? Anybody else? Story time. No dead air time. Let's go. Anyway, Caleb.
Well, both Chris and I have talked about Christian Collins Wynn in the Theo department. He was a humanities prof for both of us, and he just is still our age at heart, and it shows a lot.
Okay.
But he doesn't feel like he needs to cover that up at all,
Oh.
and he loves to just jive with you. And when we were in his class and I at separate times, just the personal conversations they'll have about absolutely anything, whatever you bring up. And even to the point, like the other day in the hallway, I haven't had him now. I was my sophomore year, that's 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Shoulder checked me in the hallway walking by.
Really?
Shoulder
Give a
checks
little
me.
check right into
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, man, what a cool dude. Like, you know? And like, it impacts you. It really does.
Okay.
It's
Good call.
powerful.
Good. Anything else? From a student's perspective, anybody else? Come on, tell your story. Yeah.
I have a story again with Mike Holmes. When I would just stop by his office every once in a while. I had him just for Intro to Bible, really simple. But just went over when I had questions I found in the Bible. And even when I went to France, something came up that caught my mind, and I emailed him, and he got so excited. You know, you're in France right now, and emailed me back. We probably had like a 6-email conversation. He would share his stories about like him being in France with his wife and his, you know, experiences over there and where he had been, and then where are you at right now and what are you up to? And
There you go.
it was just so cool to have that back and forth, and here Mike Holmes is just, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a great story. Anybody else? Just want to weigh in on this.
I have to confess, Dan, I've had a few students who would sometimes come back and say, you know, do you remember that time you said such and such a thing to me or something like that, or thanks for that? But I don't remember. It's not the things that I planned out. It's just
Exactly.
the things that happened and I don't remember. I mean, I'm happy
Yeah.
that happens, but it's a little scary because you think it could be anything that the students pick up on.
Yeah, and maybe-
So you gotta watch yourself all the time. Just be there all the time.
Reframed meaning we have no idea what's going to land. We have no idea what's going to really stay with people we teach who are being. Who else?
Since these two both are here, both of the Adams, just in my personal development, because they were actually in my major, so I'm more closely working with them, but both of them have taken so much extra time with me as a developing artist, beyond anyone else at the school probably, just to make sure that I am developing and speaking breath. I mean, we've talked about this about both of them as well, and like, just so you guys know that that's going to impact me for the rest of my
There you go.
artistic career. You know what I mean? It always will.
Yeah.
And that's,
Thank you, Ken.
you know, that's
Good stuff. Tom?
Just a general comment about proximity, because I absolutely believe it's true. I have had the blessed experience of taking a number of international trips with students.
Right.
Taking a trip with students, after a while the trip gets old, but the proximity never does. That you really never get to know a group of students like you do when you travel with them.
Oh, yeah.
Last year I got sick when we were in France somewhere, and there was a group of guys in the next room, and I was coughing like crazy, and the paper-thin walls. And all of a sudden I realized they were very concerned about my health. In fact, asking me about my health. I'm aware that when I'm on campus and I get sick, I'm kind of like a dog. You know, you have your 50-minute class, and I can get well for 50 minutes
Right.
and not let on that I'm sick. But when you're in close proximity, even getting sick is something they become aware of. And then they were able to empathize with a teacher, which is usually kind of hard to do.
Yes. Did you get better?
I'm here.
There you go. Anybody else? We'll land the plane here in a few minutes and maybe encourage each other to do this, but your stories are good. Anybody else?
Well, I'll say, you know, somewhat in response to what Caleb was saying. First of all, it's a joy to do that. But also, I think in theater, it's a little bit more of a standard operating procedure if you're directing a show or something like that, where you know you are working with, you're collaborating with someone, and so you know part of the thing I love about not only teaching theater but then doing theater with the students is that sort of connection.
Yes.
And that's what, you know, in terms of what gets you jazz.
Yes.
That for me is you know the best, biggest part of what I feel like I do here.
Last, and I realize my role is a little bit different as a ordained conservative Baptist minister. I'm neither conservative nor Baptist, so married off a Bethel student last weekend here in town. But I just need to tell you my Emily Haugen, Michael Vennerstrom story. I get requests from time to time to marry off students, which I count as a great privilege. But Michael Vennerstrom, Emily Haugen emailed me 3 years ago, said, "Would you do our wedding?" And they gave me the date, and I said, "Sorry, my wife and I are doing a retreat that weekend. I'm speaking at a church that weekend, and there's something else going on that weekend." And I said, "I'm sorry." They said, "Oh darn, we were gonna
my play.
fly
Fly.
your play." Exactly. It's on tape now. Your play. And they said, "Oh, darn. We were going to fly you and Judy to Jamaica." No exaggeration. Within 20 minutes, I had everything canceled. I said, "Benny, I'm in." He says, "What do you mean?" "We'll be there." Now, that's the far end of that continuum of incarnation. Those were great days. But here's the deal. I wonder if, as a result of coming alongside, or whatever you want to call it, if that doesn't set the stage, like Mike Holmes, for greater ministry later on, greater teaching, greater incarnation. Got a couple suggestions, and then Ann tells me we're supposed to leave time for Q&A. Okay? Be intentional about it, I guess. I love football anyway, so, but at the beginning of the year when the football and the hockey schedules come out, I get out my Microsoft Outlook and I plug them in. Because I just like to be there. Yes, I like sports, but for some reason, when a big old linebacker says to me, "I saw you," that starts to register. I'm thinking, maybe I need to be intentional about this. So, maybe the Holy Spirit could empower you as faculty and as deans and all that stuff to say, you know, maybe this is an area I should press into in the coming days. Yeah, I know there's a lot of papers to grade, and I know there's a lot of stuff, but I wonder if showing up at the basketball game might bring some redemption. That's what I'm saying. Just be intentional. Preachers always have to have a Bible verse for everything, so I'm going to throw a Bible verse out there. Think of ways. It's translated in the another translation. Consider how to encourage yourself. The word consider is to think through carefully. Interesting word. It means, okay, take a look at your life. Sit back and say, you know, yeah, there's a lot going on. Got to remember to record Modern Family. A lot of stuff going on, but I wonder if one of the best ways I can encourage Brent is to show up at one of the places. Yeah. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. So this intentionality piece is huge. Think of ways to encourage one another. Now, Maurice Cheeks didn't think of that. That was right there. I got to do something. But here we are on a Thursday morning. Maybe again the Holy Spirit can say, you know, just start thinking through ways to not step out of the classroom. That's not what we're asking. But just make this incarnation the real deal. So there's intentionality. This is maybe where it gets a little too therapeutic. Are you approachable? Are you someone that your student not only sees as the talking head, but can I talk to you about something else going on in my life? God's not calling us to be therapists. But again, if the incarnation is true, and okay, it's pretty hard to replicate the whole virgin birth thing, I get that. But this whole, Jesus got in there and mixed it up piece. And what I love about the example of Jesus through the New Testament is people who had been completely voted off the island felt really freedom to come to him and say, can we talk? Or can I touch the garment? Can I touch your robe? All of that to say, there's probably a time where it'd be a good idea maybe now to say, am I that person that a student would feel welcome talking to? I don't know. That's your call. I will throw this warning out. It's easy to stand before you, and there's this image like, I got it all figured out. I don't. I'm noticing that the older I get, in fact, I got challenged by my wife on this the other day. She said, and we don't do Minnesota Nice very well. Never will. But she said, we had an exchange with some people in Forest Lake at an event. We got in the car and she said, you know, you acted like you were interested in Tom's conversation, but I know you and you weren't. And it's starting to show. Again, we don't do Minnesota Nice real well. So I'm on this growth curve too, realizing the older I get, I'm kind of wanting to, 10 minutes, thanks. I'm starting to kind of pull in and say, yeah. So this will have to be maybe a discipline for some of us to say, as I kind of want to, you know, pull in, I need to step out just a little bit. So, a couple things. Creativity. Like you said, who knows? You don't even remember. Which I think is just the beauty of a creative God who says, I can take that moment that you don't remember and build into a student to beautiful thing. It's fun. Kind of a Maurice Cheeks thing. Okay. Q&A is what we call this. What's going through what's left of your minds? About any of this? No? Anything you want to say, weigh in on, questions, comments?
I just, I think this is obviously really good. To me, I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, well, this is what makes Bethel Bethel.
Mhm.
Teachers who are not only good at their job, know their stuff, but care about students. Some
There you
people
go.
will call it, royal love, royal care. And I'm always amazed, even having students, talking to students when they don't get lost in the cracks like at many universities, hopefully.
Yes.
And even if you're calling them and talking to them about, hey, you need to get your act together, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be asking young kids to do something you've never done. Have that kind of conversation with them, and you know that you can.
Yes.
And they'll look at you like, oh, I forgot, teachers care here. No kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think you're dead on. Obviously, I mean, it is important, obviously, to know your field and to do, to have your lesson plans, to do all that really, But it's like most of us have heard at one time or another. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and that's what this is about.
Yeah. Yes.
And that stays with people long after. And we've heard the statement, people don't remember teaching; they remember teachers. And,
They do.
That's really important stuff.
Yeah, in
I
fact,
just want to affirm what you're doing.
thank you. And I kept hearing stories about Bilby, so I figured I better get to know this guy. And he's just as crazy as the stories made him out to be. But as Jim and I were talking about certain things, we're both rather conservative theologically. We are. But he began to talk about the conversations that he had been involved with students, where there was clear difference of opinion, but there was still a really good conversation because the students knew he cared for them. Huge, huge. Anybody else?
I want to say, I think the spontaneity thing ties really strongly, actually, to the intentionality part. The
Okay.
fact that, I think you have to be intentionally open to the moment, and to the inspiration, to the students. Otherwise, you're going to miss the opportunity in the
Yep.
the spontaneous
Yep.
event.
Yeah.
That's a kind of an attitudinal, maybe, adjustment, and it's not always easy.
No, it's not. And Judy and I read a book, not this last summer, but we read a book, I can't remember the author, but it's called In Praise of Slow. And the author talks about how the Industrial Revolution kind of messed us all up, and clocks. And he said, there ought to be this built-in margin in your life that if something comes in, he's not a Christian writer, but he just says, there might be something going on there that if you'd have been scheduled to the hilt, you wouldn't have had a chance to really figure that out. So, in praise of slow. Okay. Anything else? Thanks. Got this fear of this gong show thing coming. Pulling your.
It's my Jerry Sandman.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Anything else, you guys? You just want to weigh in on?
I think it's important that professors just realize that we talk a lot about professors. The students, you know what I mean?
Do you hear
Like,
that?
a reputation.
We talk a lot
We do,
about-
like, it's honestly like a reputation is built quick
Mhm.
and not easy
Mhm.
to break. Just not to scare, but like,
Yeah.
we do. Like that's what we talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, Caleb. I began to. Some of my students were talking about how apparently Jake handed out coupons for hugs or something. What's that about?
I think still got my number.
You still got it?
Yeah.
It was like right after his inauguration,
Yeah.
every PO got one.
There you go. You wanna-
He didn't hand them out.
Yeah.
It was an April Fool's thing.
Oh, I love it.
But I was kind of kicking that around with my students a little bit. And they're not so much one of the things that they kept saying is, I saw Jay in Brush Arbor, and I saw him over at Rosedale Mall, and just this ministry of proximity thing, being normal, human. Okay, are we supposed to pray about stuff like this, or how's that work? I don't know if I feel that. Let's pray anyway, should we? Okay. Thanks, Jesus. Thank you for who you are and what you've done and modeling this whole getting in there and mixing it up piece. We have no idea what that's supposed to look like for our lives other than as people who love you and want to follow you. Help us be more incarnational. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Thank you.